Good afternoon, YouTube, to anyone watching this video. I'm going to give you a breakdown of the entire green card visa process that takes place in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. I am of DACA status. I am in the process of receiving my green card as we speak right now. It's been a very bumpy ride, and no one talks about it on YouTube. July 2021 is what the time is of this filming right now, and it's been a goddamn nightmare. Maybe because of the lockdown of coronavirus, but there has been so many hurdles right now, and the people here are very frustrated. This process is ruining a lot of people's lives as we speak. This will be a different video than my normal videos, but it's something I believe I have to put out there so people know what to expect when they come here for this process. I'm going to talk about the ride and how they can avoid it or do better. This video is a video of my process and my experience so far. We will go from the beginning of obtaining the lawyer, getting a lawyer, all the way down to my green card, which I'm waiting for as we speak. I lived in Colorado before the process started. Here's a video of me in the morning before my flight. I was going for a light jog before I went on my flight. Good times. To start this process, I hired a lawyer for my permanent resident application. This advice is for anyone looking to get a green card. It's the first step. You should really get a lawyer, whatever your situation is. I brought every single document to my lawyer that he asked of me and paid in total about $5,000 for this process, from applications to paying my lawyer. This happened back in 2018. I was under the impression that I would get my interview within 6 months. That's what I was told by everybody. I applied it in May 2018. It was around the same time that Donald Trump was in office and he was threatening to cancel DACA. And he also ended what they called advanced parole, which allowed DACAs to go to Mexico for 2 weeks for emergencies. When you're a DACA, going to Mexico and coming back in is big. So it was a way for lawyers to change your status so you wouldn't have to go to Mexico to do the interview process and do it over there in the States. After he canceled advanced parole, I had to take an alternative, which was go to Juarez to do my interview and do the whole process there and receive my visa there. This is about 2018, like I said, due to uncertainty of the administration. The 6 months for me to wait for my interview took longer than I thought. It was about 2019 by now. I had already been waiting for about a year and 9 months, close to 2020. Then the coronavirus hit the U.S. This delayed the process. The administrative offices here, the consulate, everything was closed, further delaying my process, my interview. I had nearly forgot about it, and I recently took a new job. Fast forward to 2021, as I waited for my interview, I had forgotten about it. I took a new job and I started training. During my training process, I randomly got an email from the NVC saying that I had already scheduled my interview and I had to be in Juarez in 2 weeks. I gathered all the documents that I needed. I scheduled everything that I needed, and I got ready to go to Juarez. I had a list of the documents that I needed from my lawyer. I was told about the process, the biometrics, the medical exam before the interview. So the first thing I did was I scheduled the medical exam to help my wife and my biometrics exam as well. I was working and training on my job when I got this email, so it was really conflicting for me at the time. I had to get everything ready, and at the same time I had to learn my job. The hardest part was telling my new employer that I would have to go to Mexico for 2 weeks, almost on a vacation. I told them about the process, but they really don't understand. So I had the date for my interview. My wife scheduled the biometrics 2 days before, as well as a medical exam. First, it's advised to get the medical exam, then the biometrics, so you have the paperwork to take to the biometrics. My wife was able to book these appointments 2 days before the interview, the medical and the biometrics on the same date. 2 weeks came up fast. I needed a plan to go from Juarez to Colorado. I had zero. I didn't have a plan 3 days before I had to leave to get here. I didn't know if I was going to fly or drive. I didn't really know what to do, so I started Googling everything. I found the best way to get to Juarez from Colorado is to fly to El Paso, Texas, and take a cab or an Uber over to Mexico. This was the cheapest option rather than driving. My wife and my baby came with me. I booked a flight to El Paso a week ahead. I recommend doing this because flights can get stupid expensive out here. If you're flying to El Paso, it's great to take a cab. It's the most efficient way to go. You don't want to get in trouble bringing your car out here or driving out here because of insurance and, criminals. The flight was $180 one way, and only book one way because you don't know how long you're going to be here, like my situation right now. And that was for 2 adults and a baby with 2 carry-ons and luggage. If you have family here in Juarez, it's a great idea for them to pick you up. Anyways, we got to the El Paso airport, and I really didn't know what to do then. There was no cabs in sight, and there was so many people around. I tried to get an Uber, but no Ubers would take the call. Later, I found out Ubers don't cross the border. Luckily, some cab ended up dropping somebody off at the airport, and he gave me a heads up. I was able to take a cab from El Paso all the way to my hotel here in Juarez. Cab was expensive, I would say. It was $90 to cross the border. At the time, I didn't really think about it, but he got me here, so I'm okay with it. The next morning, I woke up and I walked over to the medical examination place. It was about 5 minutes from my hotel. Across the bridge, I got there. Security asked me where I was going, and they led me to the building. There's 3 buildings, 2 on the east side, 1 on the west side. I walked over to the east side to the main building. As soon as I got there, security stopped me, took my temperature, and applied sanitizer to my hands. Coronavirus is big here, so you also need your mask. There was tape on the ground that I followed over to a machine that gave me a ticket. Very DMV style. I sat down and waited for a window to open. For the medical exam, you need your DS-260 paperwork, you need your passport, you need your immunization records, and you need your interview letter. As soon as a window was available, I walked up and they took all my paperwork, including my passport. Walked me over to the right where there was a nurse waiting for me to do a vision and hearing test. As soon as that concluded, I was told to exit the building and go to building B. Once again, you follow the arrows on the floor. The other building is just across. When I got there, security once again told me to turn off my phone if I had it or put it in airplane mode. I walked inside the building B. There was a nurse waiting for us at the front door. She gave us a cup for the urination test and a blood vial where we would put our blood in. I walked over to the bathroom, which was on the right side of the entrance, and gave her my urine sample. I walked further into the building, into a waiting room, small waiting room, and another nurse called me forward to come. I walked in her office, and she gave me a shot on the forearm for the blood sample. After I was done there, I walked out of her office into the waiting room, and then I went to an even bigger, almost like a conference room, where we waited for about half an hour until another nurse, a little bit more west, called us in to do the x-ray exam, which tests for tuberculosis and all that. It's a lung exam. As soon as I got done with my lung exam, they had me wait around again in the waiting room. Told us to get into these other little rooms they had a lot of them. And she told us to get down to our underwear and socks. And we went in the room and we did that. I waited for about 15 minutes for her. Then she came in and they started doing our physical exam. She tested all our joints to make sure we were healthy. She looked around for tattoos and piercings, and then she asked us for any prior drug use. Be really honest about this. Even if it's past, they're not going to hold it against you as long as you're clean for the test. That was most of the physical exam. It was pretty straightforward and concise. As soon as we were done with the physical, put our clothes back on. We waited in the waiting room again. Then we were told to get up, and we walked forward to another waiting room. It's like this building just has waiting room after waiting room. This time it was for our immunizations. We waited in line. It was almost like a come first situation where you get served first. And we waited in line, and the nurse called us up one by one. There were several nurses in this process, but you would go into this small tent. There were, more than a few. Small office, I should say. Once we were done with the physical exam, we walked into another waiting room. These waiting rooms were like endless, over and over again. This time it was for our immunizations. There were offices around this waiting room though, and we were called one by one, first person to come, to be checked on our immunizations. If you have your record, it should be kind of straightforward. Anything you're missing, they're going to take. If you have all of them, you won't need any shots. If you are missing some, you'll get them right there. I think shots are like $70 a shot, so you might want to have them all before you go. For me, I didn't need any of them. As soon as I was done with that part, walked through the lines again. And this time, for me, because I had a few scars on my hands from boxing, I was told to go into psychology. There they asked me about prior incidents, if I went to school, just basic questions. Asked them about my depression, anxiety, all that. I didn't have any, so the interview was kind of short. They just wanted to make sure that I was all right. And once I was done with that, then finally I got to go to the cashier, which is at the end of the building, where you kind of just pay and then get out of the building. My total exam was about $338. The exam itself was about 2 hours long. And as soon as I was done with that, I headed back to the hotel. I got to my hotel, and 2 hours later, I got to my hotel, took a nap, and then 2 hours later, I had the biometrics. And this biometrics thing is a little bit north of the medical exam. It's in kind of like a plaza. It's really far back. There are a couple pictures of it. And basically, you just get in line. When you get out of the medical exam, you get a receipt that you have to take over to the biometrics. So once you get in the biometrics are, you're scheduled at a certain time, and you have to be there at that time. Like I said, you don't have to be too early. Basically, what they do is they set people to come at a certain time, and they make a line out of that. So for me, it was about 2:30, and there was a lot of people that were there for 2:30. I was one of the last ones to get in line. As soon as 2:30 hit, we were able to go inside they did a security check on us. This means like making sure you didn't have any weapons, all that stuff. Once we were done going through security, we lined up and we needed to have our documents in hand, which was our appointment letter, support affidavit, our passport, and that receipt that you got at the medical exam. Once again, it was kind of like a DMV, smaller DMV. We waited for somebody to open up the window, and then we turn in our documents. We got our picture taken there at the biometrics, and we got obviously our fingerprints scanned. As soon as that was done, we got our paperwork back. Make sure you bring your passport too. We got our paperwork back, and we headed out.